My family laughed and called me a failure. Then my brother's fiancée froze and said, "Wait, that's you." They always laughed first. That's how it went in my family. Before the judgment, before the insults, before the final verdict that I was, once again, the family disappointment. We were gathered in my parents' dining room, the same room where my childhood dreams had been quietly crushed one by one. The chandelier was too bright, the laughter too loud, and the air thick with that familiar feeling. I didn't belong here. I sat at the far end of the table, fingers wrapped around a glass of water I hadn't touched. My mother hadn't even asked what I wanted to drink. She never did. "So," my father said, clearing his throat, smiling that tight smile he used when he was about to embarrass me. "How's whatever it is you're doing now?" My older brother Mark snorted before I could answer. "She's still finding herself," he said, making air quotes. "You know, like the last 10 years. Everyone laughed. Again. I smiled politely. I always did. Years of practice had taught me how to look calm while my chest burned. "I'm working," I said simply. "Oh," my mother raised an eyebrow, still hopping from thing to thing. Before I could respond, Mark leaned back in his chair, smug as ever. "At least tell us you finally got a real job," he said. "You're 31, Lena. Most people our age have careers, families, homes." I noticed how he said most people, never including me. Across from him sat Emily, Mark's fiancée. She was new to these dinners, engaged just 3 months, still polite, still observant. She smiled when everyone else laughed, but her eyes watched. Quietly, carefully. I hadn't spoken to her much before tonight. "So what is it you do, Lena?" she asked gently. My parents groaned almost in unison. "Oh, honey," my mom waved her hand dismissively. "She tries different things. Freelancing, online stuff, little projects, nothing stable." "Basically unemployed," Mark added. Laughter again. Something inside me tightened, but I didn't fight back. Not yet. "I run a consulting company," I said calmly. "Mostly remote." Mark burst out laughing. "A company," he repeated. "Sure you do." My father shook his head. "You always had a big imagination." I looked down at the table, tracing the wood grain, grounding myself. I'd learned long ago, never defend yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Emily was quiet now. She tilted her head slightly, studying my face. "Consulting," she asked slowly. "What kind?" "Risk management and crisis strategy," I replied. "Mostly for startups and public figures." There was a brief pause. Then Mark laughed even harder. "Oh my God," he said, wiping his eyes. "You hear that? Crisis strategy. What crisis have you ever handled?" That was when Emily stopped smiling. She leaned forward slightly, her fork frozen halfway to her plate. "Wait," she said. The room quieted, not because anyone respected her question, but because her tone had changed. "Did you say your name is Lena Hart?" she asked. I looked up. "Yes." Her face drained of color. She stared at me like she'd just seen a ghost. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." My mother frowned. "Emily, are you okay?" Emily didn't answer her. She was still staring at me. "Lena Hart," she repeated, slower this time. "As in Hart Strategic Solutions." Mark scoffed. "Babe, don't encourage her." But Emily wasn't laughing. Her hand trembled slightly as she set her fork down. That's the firm that handled the Whitmore scandal," she said quietly, "and the governor's campaign crisis last year." The table went silent. My father blinked. "What?" Mark turned to Emily. "You're joking, right?" Emily swallowed. "I work in corporate law," she said slowly. "We studied that case. Whoever ran that strategy saved 12 people from prison and made millions doing it." She looked back at me. "You're that Lena Hart." Every eye at the table snapped toward me. For the first time in my life, no one was laughing. I took a sip of my water. "Yes," I said. Mark shook his head, confused. "That's impossible, you don't even." Post on social media, I finished calmly. Drive flashy cars, talk about it. Emily whispered, "You're known for being invisible." My mother's voice was suddenly soft. "Lena, is this true?" I met her gaze. "You never asked," I said. The silence was deafening. Mark's face turned red. "If you're so successful," he snapped, "why didn't you ever tell us?" I looked around the table, the same people who had laughed at me minutes ago. "You never listened," I replied. Emily leaned back, stunned. "Oh my God," she murmured. "Mark, your sister is legendary in my field." My brother laughed nervously. "Okay, relax, she's exaggerating." Emily shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "I've seen her work, she's ruthless, brilliant, she never loses." She turned to me again. "Why didn't you say anything?" I smiled, small, controlled. "Because," I said, "this is the first time anyone here has wanted to hear the truth." No one argued. But something had shifted, and I could feel it. They weren't laughing anymore. They were afraid. When the laughter died. After that dinner, nothing was the same. The family group chat, silent for months, suddenly came alive. "Mom, honey, can we talk?" "Dad, proud of you. Didn't realize how big your work was." "Mark, Emily might have misunderstood. Let's clear the air." Clear the air. Funny how they only wanted oxygen once they realized I wasn't drowning. I didn't reply. 3 days later, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She stood in the hallway like she was afraid to step inside, like my life might contaminate her. "It's smaller than I imagined," she said. I smiled. "Funny, you imagine nothing at all." She ignored that. "Emily told Mark about your clients," she said. "Do you know how impressive that is?" I leaned against the counter. "I know." Her lips pressed together. "Your father thinks maybe you could help Mark." There it was. "Help him with what?" I asked. "Well," she hesitated, "his business loan was denied. Investors aren't responding. Maybe if you made a call." I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. "You spent 10 years calling me a failure," I said. "Now you want my phone book." She flinched. "We're family." "No," I corrected. "You're relatives. Family doesn't laugh when someone is bleeding." She left shortly after. Then Mark called. "Emily says you're known for destroying people who underestimate you," he said, trying to joke. "I don't destroy people," I replied. "I let them destroy themselves." Silence. He swallowed. "Listen about the wedding." "Ah, yes, the wedding." "I heard you're having it at the Whitmore estate," I said casually. He froze. "How did you?" "I consult for the foundation that owns it." Another silence. Emily called me that night. "I need to apologize," she said softly. "I laughed with them that night. I didn't stop it." "I noticed," I said. She exhaled shakily. "Mark didn't tell me how they treated you growing up." "He didn't think it mattered," I replied. She paused. "Would you come to the wedding?" I smiled, slow and deliberate. "Oh, Emily," I said, "I wouldn't miss it for the world." Fire final. The wedding they'll never forget. The wedding was lavish. Cameras, influencers, investors. My parents beamed like they'd built something successful, for once. No one expected me to show up. I did. Simple black dress, no jewelry, no announcements. But whispers followed me. Because some of the guests recognized me. A senator shook my hand. A billionaire hugged me. Emily watched from across the room, eyes wide. Mark's smile faded with every introduction. Then came the speeches. My father stood first. He talked about family values, about support, about pride. The lies tasted bitter in the air. Then Emily surprised everyone. She took the microphone. "I want to thank someone special," she said, voice steady. "Someone who taught me what strength actually looks like." She turned toward me. Gasps rippled through the room. "Lena Hart," she said. The woman who built an empire while being told she was nothing. My mother's face went pale. Emily continued. This family laughed at her, belittled her, took credit for her silence. Mark whispered, Emily, stop. She didn't. I won't marry into a family that mistakes cruelty for honesty, she said. And then she took off her ring. I'm calling off the wedding. The room erupted. Mark shouted. My mother cried. My father collapsed into a chair. Emily walked toward me. I hope one day you forgive me, she whispered. I nodded. I already have. Then I turned to my family. I didn't come here for revenge, I said calmly. I came for closure. I looked at my parents. You lost me long before today, I said. This is just when you finally noticed. I walked out as cameras flashed. The next morning, headlines exploded. Wedding called off after family scandal. Secret strategist exposed as failure sister. Mark lost investors. My parents lost their social standing. And I went back to my quiet life. Power doesn't need applause. And success. It speaks loudest when you no longer have to. End arrow, the end.